just to give an overview of the call. All right, welcome everybody to the call on Bulletin 2307, December 19th, 2023. Couple quick ground rules just to go over the plan and some etiquette here. We're going to try to keep this to 30 minutes unless discussion dictates otherwise. One question per participant. If you are pulled up on stage, keep your stage time to a minute, please, so we can work through everybody if needed. Keep questions focused on the topic per usual, and just know that anything that is either off topic or a little too speculative or needs kind of some further discussion will be redirected to chat. So we just want to keep this clean and clear and on target. So in a minute here, we'll go back over the proposal and talk about the bulletin and then open it up for some questions. If you have questions already, please prepare those by chat so that Sean and Seth and Nate and others can help gather those up and present those when the question time comes up. All right. Let's get rolling then. Looks like this is probably everybody. Okay, so Bulletin 2307 in a proposed change to governance process in response to civil risk. So I'm assuming everybody here has read the bulletin, hopefully read the research document, and understands the fundamental risk here, which is really the bottom line of two things. First, civil risk and advanced civil attack, or sophisticated, civil attack cannot be detected. There is no solution at this time. The second issue is there is no proven or well-known mitigation strategies or technologies. As the paper outlines, it kind of gives a kind of three different areas to kind of resist and help try to detect and find it, but there is no proven, there's no guarantees, and many of them have collateral damage that also are undesirable. So give a little bit of background. So we identified civil risk earlier in the cohort as tokens became unlocked and were circulating and moving. This became an issue. Internal research kind of verified this was an issue. We sought to look out for expert opinions, consulted some research and experts. Some of those who are contributing also helped develop the original Echelon Charter and papers. So not someone new, someone that has a deep familiarity with Echelon and Prime and Parallel. So because there's no immediate and actionable solutions, the best thing for right now, and the simplest solution, is a change to one token, one vote, is what we're proposing here. But we will continue to research and explore how to enhance voting mechanism with our consultants and researchers in the new year. So we want to find ways to make sure this fits a model or this model or some adaptations of whatever we do does really support the Echelon ecosystem and its ethos. Before I go into some of the key analysis response, any other context, Ron, Seth, or Nan, you'd like to provide?
No, that's good.
No, I think you did a good job.
Okay. So in talking about, as we consulted researchers, there's kind of three key issues here to really highlight. Civil attack scenarios are net profitable kind of no matter what under quadratic voting. Furthermore, in the quadratic or square root voting, the risk is asymmetrical, which means the value of the assets within the ecosystem go up, but the cost for attack does not go up proportionally. So the more something's worth, the cheaper it is to attack, the greater the profitability. So that's a really big red flag. There are no proven detection mitigation strategies in a pseudonymous quadratic or square root voting system. So due to this report, we're proposing a move to a linear or one token, one vote, and to explore how to enhance that so it better fits the community over time. So that's the bulk of the bulletin. And Bran, I see the question, and I will look at this a little closer.
Just for what it's worth, I'm on mobile, so I can't see the chat. So please read out.
Yeah, I'll read it out for you here, and Seth, because this is probably you will help best explain this as well. Brand says, I don't understand how this is canceling the risk of quadratic voting or lowering it. As I understand it, quadratic vote dampens the power of large holders. If quadratic vote is canceled, it boosts the vote power of large holders, thus increasing a risk of their attack. So would you kind of maybe give an overview of how, Seth, of how exactly square root quadratic voting works and what the attack risk is relative?
Yeah, so quadratic dampens large single entities and gives more power to smaller entities. Now, because the blockchain is fairly transparent to the average user, but there are a very large number of ways that a sophisticated actor can take what would be a large amount of prime accumulated either at once or over a very large amount of time and distribute that prime to tens, hundreds, thousands would be ridiculous, but as an exercise, let's say thousands of wallets and have essentially far more voting power than not only just a single entity, but like the studio, Echelon, all the EPs, etc. It would require sophistication to do it at such a large level, but there are people that have done it for other projects. It's a known attack vector, and as Steele said, there's no proven guaranteed way to verify whether or not the wallets are genuine. Because I will also add that, personally, I know multiple people who have been just creating wallets randomly generating wallets, for 5 or 6 years now, periodically backdating them and doing periodic transactions with them for the purpose of getting around these Sybil mechanism checks for airdrops and other things. It's pretty common, and they get through every net that's been out there.
Thanks. Brian, hopefully that helps. If that does help or you have a follow-up, go ahead and post it in chat. I think explaining Sybil attack and how that functions, we can also do offline a little bit. It's also well detailed in the document. It is a little long, but there's something to look at. Yeah. We'll wait for some other questions to come in, unless someone else wants to address something. You can either raise a hand. At this point, we'll take questions. And raise your hand if you want to come up, be invited to stage for a quick question, or if you'd like to just post it in chat, that may be simplest. Yeah, good point, J. Crew. I think there's another element here. Oh, DJ's up here.
CJ, did you have a question? Are you able to unmute? Okay, I see you've unmuted, but if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Maybe you can ask your question in the chat. Excuse me, in the chat.
I think they got disconnected from the stage channel entirely. Hopefully they make it back.
Yeah, so there's a question here of why was this voting chosen in the beginning? We'll tackle that a little bit. I think it's a little bit outside the scope, kind of what we have to kind of address the risk and why we do it, but it is choosing to really hopefully more evenly distribute voting power. But the key flaw here is that it's susceptible to attack. Just the kind of flat. He's back up.
Sorry, I can't see the question. Is the question why linear is chosen or why quadratic?
No. Yep,
Can you hear?
CJ, yep, we can hear you. Hold on one
All right,
second.
great.
Just we're gonna clarify one question. The question is why was it chosen in the beginning? I think Cold addressed it in the chat, and so we'll follow up in chat if needed. But yeah,
Okay.
CJ, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. If you guys had considered doing a more account-based voting, so that you can kind of like with Parallel, where you can link multiple wallets and then have an account that actually is what you use to do your votes, and then you can do the weighting based on the prime, but still have some sort of weighting there, so you don't have the same idea of just the whales being the ones that decide.
Yeah, there's a lot. So working with consultants, and there's a lot of different things out in this crypto sphere, as along with traditional systems in Web2 or elsewhere that we'll be exploring and looking at. I think it's key here not to rush into something and then come up with another attack vector or flaw or a really cumbersome user experience. So we're trying to. The first thing is to mitigate the risk in a known and proven way, and the second thing is to look at what can we do to enhance the voice of participants in the community, if that makes sense. So we will look at many options. Something you're outlining would be one of those that we'll be explaining into this, or looking into, sorry.
Yeah, and I guess I will just add that I think many people in our community will have many ideas, and it's worth noting that not everything needed to implement them, such as the suggestion that was just proposed, is able to be implemented anywhere in the short term, midterm, anything like that, because we don't know what infrastructure will exist and we don't know when it will exist. And that's why this sort of needs to be an evolving thing. And as Steele said, we will just, keep exploring and keep researching.
Thanks for coming up, CJ. Is there anybody else from the audience that wants to come up to the stage and ask a question? I just remind for the ground rules, for those of you who may have joined late, one question per participant at a time, please, and then 1 minute per guest on stage. And if you would like to come up, please raise your hand and we will pull you up.
For those on mobile, I'm going to read Wow's question here. Wow, good question. The summary of it is this. While I agree QV has risks, it provides a level of work to game, whereas one token, one vote requires bulk buy off sex, path of least resistance. Seems to me like this will be more risky than not. Sure. Yeah. So I think we get what you're saying.
Okay, so I'll jump in. Everything that we do in this space to make money, whether via legal means or via illegal means or via means that are sort of murky in their, legality, is done to, make money and it takes work. If that work is demonstrated to be profitable and one method over another provides more profit with less work, a dedicated actor will always choose that option. And a lot of this, a lot of what is just, you've described as work, has a certain level of sophistication, can be completely automated. And what, one-to-one, yes, you have the large holders having a lot of voting. But, the path of least resistance for a lot of people, people exploit bridges all the time. I mean, how many bridges out there between chains haven't been exploited, right? How many protocols that we've used for years haven't been exploited? the easiest money is money you take from other people. Attack vectors should be taken seriously. This is an attack vector.
Sorry, I'm just reading, catching up on chat.
Yep. I just wanted to see if you needed a prompt there.
No, thanks. I'm just scrolling down, catching up, and I see typing. So we'll let the thought finish here. Yeah, I think it depends on what kind of work. I think, well, to your point, in my opinion, I'm not the expert on exactly on square root voting here and sibling, but one takes work at the expense of having funds, right? Having a vested financial interest in the ecosystem, whereas the other, you can hack the financial interest of the ecosystem with far less resources. So I think what we should remember is that this is the best solution right now and the simplest solution to mitigate the risk. And we are going to continue talking and exploring how exactly we can bring smaller voices into the ecosystem to have a weightier voice, so to speak. But that takes research, it takes time, it takes some testing. It's we don't want to just jump from one flawed solution to another. So we want to take our time and do this right. All right, well, I don't see any more hands up. Yeah. I don't see other hands up and other typing and questions. So Gov General will still be a good place to follow up with questions, asking for clarity and further information on the bulletin. And we will continue to read those. So at this time, we'll give it a couple more minutes for 2 more minutes for questions to come up, or we will just conclude the call and kind of take it ad hoc offline.
I guess I would just like to reiterate that, one of the reasons, or one of the things we're trying to protect here is the treasury, and as Echelon expands, it won't just be Echelon that's at risk from an attack. Branches out to multiple other projects, then as disastrous as it would be for us to, have an attack and, our treasury to be vulnerable, that would be the end. There's just no other way to put it. That would be the end. So, risk is quantifiable here, and please read the literature. I think it outlines a lot of this.
And Molly, good question. There's a number of things, and the space is filled with different ideas and ways of doing things. There's always a balance between risk, the friction required to make that work, cost of implementation, complexity of implementation. So I don't really want to throw out too many kind of what ifs, maybes right now, especially on a formal call. But those are things we can probably iterate on as a community in Gov General. But I think the core thing we would want to focus on in the future, where we're really interested in, is as CJ brought up, is activity in game and participation in the ecosystem. I think that's where the key is in personhood and activity. So, but we have to figure that out, and we have to work with studios and things like that.
Yeah, that last part is key. I think if you got, for those of you who have been around for a while, we work closely with the studios, but that doesn't mean we have access to all the data in real time. And as Steele said, this is something we plan to continue to explore. This will be an evolving thing, but we are trying to solve a problem that exists now. And this is the solution.
Always sorry for the non-answer, but hopefully that gives you some insight into where we're thinking and what we're working toward. Last call for questions, and nothing really substantive. We will take it offline. Okay, I'm always good. CJ's typing. We'll give you a quick minute. Thank you all for showing up. Thanks for making time, taking time of the day, bringing questions, pressing forward what's best for echelon system and participation. And we will continue to have conversation and update you guys as things develop on this bulletin, but also in the months ahead, especially in the new year, as we explore this more deeply and look at what could be next. Thanks, CJ. Appreciate your attendance and your question. To those kind of going back and forth about how QV and linear compare and contrast, let's move that to Gov General or elsewhere, but let's conclude the call. Cole, do you want to tie that off? And then if people want to take this to say things out loud or voice text, we can, or Gov General will be